Now, a new report from the University of Calgary finds that Canada has been targeted with a direct disinformation campaign as the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, and most of it is spreading through social media. Joining us now for a breakdown of the study is Jean-Christophe J.C. Boucher, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science at the University of Calgary. Professor Boucher, thanks for joining us this morning here on CP24 Breakfast. What's the big concern here? Because I think a lot of people log into social media, they see posts about, whether it's food prices or, the war in Ukraine, and they think what they're seeing is real, but you're highlighting the real concerns about what we're actually seeing in front of us.
Right. So we know that the Russian state apparatus has always used information as a way to spread propaganda and promote the war and their views. What we've known and what we've done at the University of Calgary is essentially collect millions of tweets and social media engagement to kind of measure, in what respect Russia is trying to promote their conflict or their views of the conflict and how they're kind of shaping or trying to influence public perception. And what we found is that in Canada, we have essentially two vectors of approach, two vectors of influence, one coming from the U.S. and a lot of misinformation coming on the Russian conflict comes from the United States, and especially the right-wing groups within the United States, and the other one from Russia, from China, and from international accounts that are sipping through Canada and promoting Russian narrative.
Mm-hmm. And Professor Boucher, let's talk about promoting Russian narrative. What exactly does that mean? What is the story they are talking about? Is it focused on NATO and what it's doing and how the West is propping up fascists?
Right. So what we've done here is essentially use machine learning and AI to read all of these tweets. We're not going to read 6 million tweets. Mm-hmm. And what we find essentially is that the propaganda shapes around like 5 broad themes. The first one is the notion that, Russian aggression or Russian invasion in Ukraine is the result of NATO expansion in the West, in the East. So what they're saying essentially, we had to invade Ukraine because NATO is expanding eastward and we're forced to do this. The second part is the assumption that NATO is using, or the West is using Ukraine as a proxy to wage war against Russia. The third part is essentially, like you've said, that there's a Nazi regime in Ukraine, and Russia is in denazifying operations there. The last two ones are mostly focusing on mistrust in institution. This is where like there's an interesting combination between populism and the Russian war. And what the argument here is that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is caused or the product of globalist conspiracy theory, designed by the World Economic Forum and the Trudeau government. And here you're seeing really people shaping around anti-elitism and how the Russian conflict is actually caused by international elites.
So, I think I know the answer to this question, Professor, but what's the danger here of this misinformation then?
Right. So I think this is the important part. What we're trying to understand in what way social media shapes public attitude. And what the research shows systematically is that more and more our social media life, our online life, intersect with our real life. In some ways, people are getting their information from social media. And those platforms are creating more and more polarization and essentially erodes democratic resiliency. And I think this is where we have to have a conversation in Canada where our online relationship and our online life is actually now having real world political effects in our policy. And that's the big concern that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that these messages of disinformation are really targeting a certain vulnerable population here in Canada. We wish we had more time to chat. Jean-Christophe Boucher, Assistant Professor from the Department of Political Science at the University of Calgary. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Fascinating.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.